Let me begin by thanking everyone that has uh, made time to be with us this evening. Thank you very much for your willingness and your commitment, and not only for this time, but throughout the week. It's such a joy, a blessing, and an honor for me to be able to share with every one of you. It's really nice. So thank you for allowing us to be part of your week in this virtual mission trip. And as well, let me begin by introducing myself with those of you who don't know me. I am Jorge Garcia. I'm the mission teams director for Child Beyond International in Guatemala. I am Guatemalan and I live here, was born and raised in here. And I've been working with CBI for a little bit over the last 4 years, pretty much since we started operating in this country. And also one more thing that I want to thank you for is for your willingness to still be part of the purpose of the church. We know with the current situation that we're all going around the world, we're not being able to live our daily lives as we were used to and do missions as we were used to. And as I've been in touch with Pastor Blaise before, I understand that you've been at the church or a congregation that has been involved in missions. You've been, some of you have been to Guatemala before, if I remember right, with this ministry called Hope Chest. I have never partnered with them, but I had some friends that worked there, so I have heard about their ministry. Now, well, we're truly thankful for you trusting to hear, at least this time, of what we have been trying to do here in Guatemala and joining us for this experience, this virtual mission trip. As I was mentioning, maybe there are many things that we're not being able to do right now and how this situation has been affecting our ministries. Now I'll be sharing a little bit about that with you. But that doesn't mean the purpose of the church has to stop and the expansion of the kingdom of our God has to stop. So thank you for your willingness and your commitment to that. And let me tell you a little bit about how this meeting will be. It's a webinar. I'm not being able to see everyone that is participating in it. I'm sure that many of you are familiarized now with virtual meetings or Zoom meetings or video calls. So we're depending on our internet. I really hope that I will not be having any problem, that you will be able to see and hear me without any problem. But just keep that in mind as we're depending on an internet connection. We'll see how this goes in the next hour. And also, as many of you know, there is a chat box in here. So if you have any question or any comment, you can leave your question in there. I believe that Julie will be seeing them. And at the end, any comment or any question that you may have, I'll be happy to try to give an answer to that. So if you have any comment, Pastor Blaise or Julie, you can interrupt me at any time. I'll be happy to answer. But if it's easier just to leave all of the questions or comments for the end, maybe that's a better way in which we can do it. And as I was mentioning, we'll try to have this meeting for about an hour. And what we will be doing is that I'll be sharing a little bit about CBI, our history, how we started, what we have been trying to do for the last 4 years here in Guatemala. As well, I want to share a little bit of the current situation with this crisis and how it has been affecting our country, our ministry. I want to share with you what we normally do with our teams in here and some of the future plans that we have as Child Beyond. And well, Pastor Blaise and I were mentioning at the beginning that Pastor Peter is here with us. Well, and I understand that he was the connection between Child Beyond and your congregation. So he's been a good friend. He's been here 2 times, if I remember right. He's participated in the construction of 2 houses. So thank you for connecting us to this local church. So it's a blessing to be able to partner and to share with more people that are part of the body of our Lord. And to begin with, as I was mentioning, I want to share a little bit about our history and how we began. And actually, I don't know, maybe some of you have had the chance, but we have a book about our history, which is this one. If any of you would like to have access to it, I think you can let us know and we can find a way to be able to share it with you. and pretty much you can read all about Child Beyond in this small book. But to quickly share with you everything, well, we believe this ministry began in the heart of our Lord, and pretty much it started with I would say a small church in Hood River, Oregon, and there is there was another couple in this church that the Lord has blessed in many different ways. And then some years ago, they decided that they wanted to donate a car to the church for the church to sell it and then be able to do something outside the US with those funds. So this was a really pretty car, a classic from the 50s. So the church was able to sell it in an auction. And then the way we were able to start the whole process in here was through the funds that the church received through the selling of that car. And then when that happened, well, the pastor of this church, which is actually Pastor Pitt's brother, his name is Jeff Mueller, and some other leaders from the church started praying to try to find out what the Lord wanted them to do with those funds. So after some time of prayer, they understood that the Lord was calling them to start an orphanage or a children's home, as we call it, in a Latin American country, but they were not really sure where could they do that. So they continued praying, and they were able to visit some other ministries in Mexico, in El Salvador, and then in Guatemala. And after praying some more time, they finally understood that the Lord was calling them to start a children's home in Guatemala. So that's how the decision was made. And then he's no longer working with us, with Child Beyond. But then they started looking for someone that was willing to come and be the director of our children's home and start the whole process. So there was a family living in Washington, close to Hood River, that was wanting to come to Guatemala and do something. And then the church was looking for someone to come and start this process. So they were able to find each other. Then this family came, and they were actually the ones that hired me to help them in the office. That was at the beginning of 2016. And then after a year and a half or so after we started, this family couldn't continue with us anymore. And then I stay as the interim director of the children's home. And by the way, you may hear on Friday, Monday, we call it hogar, which means home, and that's just how we call it. So yeah, when they came, they really didn't know anything about how to open a children's home in a foreign country. So we received some help, and then in here, we're legally licensed by the government. It was up, maybe, it could be that you have heard about some Guatemalans adoptions from some American families, because that was more common in the last years, but it was in 2008 where all of that changed, and pretty much all the adoptions in this country were the ones in charge of the adoptions were the attorneys, and the government was not really following that. But then some of these attorneys realized that they could make some good money of that, so pretty much it became a business. And then some of those cases became human traffic. So then when the government realized about that, they created an office, which is called CNA, for what it stands in Spanish. So now, if you want to have a children's home, or if you want to adopt, it's all regulated through this office, CNA. So they are the ones that gave us our license. And as a matter of fact, we need to renew it every 2 years. So this month, we are renewing our license with them for the second time. And then we have, well, our license and the space that we have is for 20 children. We receive children from the age of 1 day to 5. And then if they need to grow with us, they will do it. That's just the age to receive them. And our space is to have up to 20 children. And then we've been open almost for a little bit over 4 years now. And then in this time, we've had almost 80 children. And Mandy, which is our current director for the hogar, right now will be sharing more on all of that with you on Friday. But pretty much some of these kids come to us, and then if they are not completely orphans, but if they have a relative that could take care of them, while the government finds a relative that they could go with, they stay with us, in average from 4 to 6 months. But of course, there are some special cases which kids stay with us in the long term. And as I was mentioning, you will hear more about it with Mandy on Friday. But pretty much every child that comes to us comes through our children's courts in here with a court order. And if there's a case, they evaluate it. They see if they need to take it away from their parents or any relative, if they were abandoned, and that's when they call us. So we have been having some relationship with the judges all around the country, and when there is the need of someone to be placed in a children's home, they call us, and then if we have a space and if we're able to receive them, that's how they come to us. But then it was 2 years ago when we also decided that we wanted to start hosting teams to have an outreach program. So we started this program in 2018, and well, last year, 2019, it was a little bit more busy than the first year. And then for this year, we're expecting to have a really busy calendar. As a matter of fact, obviously as it is summertime in the States, that's when more teams are willing to come. So that's the high season, and we were supposed to be really busy during these months in this year. And unfortunately, things have changed. So we've been trying to adapt to this, but just to share with you, we were able to receive a family that came during the whole month of January. Usually teams come for a period of 1 week. This was a special case, a family that wanted to stay here a whole month. We were able to have some projects with them. Then in February, we were able to build 2 houses. And then in March and April, we're expecting to build 3 more houses. That's when everything started to change. And I'll be sharing with you in a moment. But this virus, we reported the first case in here a little after some other countries around North and South America. So we're not really sure what we were going to do. We started hearing about these cases, and the teams were wondering if they should come or not. But then our government shut down the airport and the border. So then it was really clear that we couldn't be hosting teams for that time. So for now, everything that we had planned for this year had been canceled. We have been having some strict regulations in here. We have not been able to travel from one state to another. And then in some of the communities that we have been working with are in another state. So we have not been able to visit them. There were 2 families that have had everything ready for us to start building the house for them. So it was really hard on them because they were in the need of a house. We were really excited to help them, but then everything changed really quickly. So we had to stop, and now maybe even before we're able to receive the next team, with our team in here and some of our staff will be able to go to these communities at least start working and finish in these houses to continue blessing these families. So what I want to do now is that I would like to share my screen to share some pictures with you. And let me know if you're able to see it. Pastor Blaise, are you able to see?
There we go.
Okay, great. So I'll be doing this pretty much for the rest of our meeting to share the different things with you. But as I was telling you, well, we reported our first case of this virus in the 2nd week of March, a little after. I'm sorry, were you saying something?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit after some other countries started reporting their first cases. And then in here, we had just this year, we had a new president. And just to share with you throughout, I think this is really common all over Latin American countries. People do not really have good expectations of our presidents and our government because historically they have been involved in corruption a lot. So we were not really sure what to expect of this new president. That he's been in power for the last 6 months. And just in his 3rd month, that's when we reported the first case. So what our government did is that they declare, as we call it in Spanish, a state of calamity, where the president can take some extreme decisions or regulations for the country. And we have been under this state for the last 4 years. And then some of those regulations were that, as I was mentioning before, that our borders were closed. and no one is allowed to come in or to go out. There has not been any public transportation. Just as in many other countries, the non-essential businesses were closed. There was a quarantine, and except that for us, it has lasted a little over 4 months for now, and it seems that it will continue for the next ones. And then they have also established a curfew that has been changing according to how many cases we've been having. But right now, it is that you cannot be outside after 6 p.m. and then before 5 a.m. And then during the weekend, no one is allowed to go out. But they have been changing that week by week. So we need to be aware of the new decisions that are coming each week. And then one good thing that our government started doing at the beginning, I think many people like that, was they started building some temporary hospitals to specifically attend people that were sick or were affected by this virus. If you are familiarized with Guatemala, or if you have heard about us, unfortunately, our health system has been struggling and pretty much abandoned for many years now. So even without a pandemic, they're really non-functional. So especially with a crisis like this, everyone knew that our hospitals were not going to be good for this. So they announced at the beginning that they were going to be building 5 temporary hospitals in different regions of the country. And since the beginning, I think the average Guatemalan has been afraid of this virus. We started hearing of what happened in Asia, then how it went throughout Europe, and when it started happening in the US. So I think people were just afraid of how could this affect our country. So for the first month or so, everyone was following the regulations. Everyone was happy with the decisions the president was making. But then almost after 2 months, things started to change, and then numbers started to grow. And as it has happened in many other countries, the economy has started to seem really affected by this. So just I want to share with you. Oh, I'm sorry. I think this moved a little. Yeah. Oh, okay. These are our current statistics up to yesterday. We have had of reported cases almost 31,000 cases. I think today we have reached that number. 4,000, almost 4,500 people have recovered, and affected cases we have 25,000. So this has been a little hard for us, especially in these last months. This is just the map of Guatemala, and right here, this is the Guatemala City, the capital, and this is where we're having most of the cases. Let me see, Guatemala. We have just in this state, 67% of the cases. So at least it has been a good thing that in all the rural areas and the countryside of the country, people has not been as hardly affected as we have been here in the city. But as I was sharing with you, well, especially in the last months, we have been having more cases. I think we're in the hardest part of this situation right now. They're saying we're on the peak of the curve, and our prayer and hope is that cases will start to go down as soon as possible. But unfortunately, one thing that has been truly affecting us is that even though, as I was telling you, there were these temporary hospitals, they're not being enough to be able to receive and give medical attention to everyone that is needing it. This is one of our national hospitals. We have 2 in the city, and they pretty much stopped receiving anyone else that was sick with anything else, and just started providing medical care for people infected with this virus. And this is a picture that a doctor shared from just the halls, because all the rooms are full, and they're just not having any more space to attend more people. So one thing that in here, which is definitely different than in the States, is that our population is almost around 17 million people. As I was sharing with you before, there are almost 30,000 cases reported and almost 25,000 active. And then out of them, maybe only 5,000 have been really in need of medical attention. But just with that, just compared to other countries, that with that small amount of people that are in need of medical attention. It has not been enough. And then the temporary hospitals at the beginning, they said that they were going to build 5 of them, and each of them was going to have a space to receive 3,000 people. Well, at least the one that was built here in the city, after they received 300 people, they were full. They couldn't receive any more. So right now, this is being one of the toughest things in the country. This is the emergency room in one of these hospitals, and people are just waiting to be able to get a room. I was reading in the news that people are waiting from 2 to 4 days to be able to have a space in a hospital. So they're really crowded as well. This is another picture from the emergency room in one of the biggest hospitals here in the city. Even though they're not really equipped, these are the hospitals that have the best medical equipment in the country, because the other ones in the countries in the countryside, in the rural areas, lack many medical supplies. So everyone's pretty much being set in here, and now we're not having a lot of space. Unfortunately, because of that, many people are not being able to receive medical attention. Lately, in the last weeks, we have started to hear that some people are passing away on the streets or in their cars. Or when you call in here, we don't have a 911 service, but just the firemen. They work as firemen, but also as paramedics. So they have been starting to say that they're not being able to transport people to the hospitals because they're not receiving them anymore. So that's becoming a big problem. There have been some other countries that have struggled with this, and we heard about Venezuela and Ecuador in South America. Well, maybe we're nothing compared to them, and our prayer is that this will not keep getting worse and worse. But the same things that we started hearing about other countries had started to happen in here, where people are dying on the streets or at home or inside their cars on the road. So that's becoming a hard situation. One other thing, unfortunately, that it seems our government has not been doing a good job is that many doctors are struggling because they don't have the correct medical equipment. Just today, I was reading on the news that a group of doctors decided to resign because after 4 months, they didn't receive their salary. And then some other doctors have been getting infected. Some of them have passed away. So it seems we're in the hardest time of this current situation now in Guatemala. And, obviously, this has been affecting our economy. If you're familiarized with this country, or if you have been here in the city, maybe you don't get to see much of that in the city, because Guatemala City is quite a modern city. It is said that it's the biggest city in Central America. So when you come here, you are able to see some people in poor conditions. But pretty much it's the rest of the country that struggle with malnutrition, not access to education or health care. And one thing that started happening is that, well, after the quarantine, many people are starting losing their jobs, as it has been in so many other countries. But unfortunately, one thing that it's hard for us in here is that more than 70% of Guatemalans belong to what we call the informal economy. So they don't have a paycheck at the end of the month. They don't work for a company, but either they work in a market, or they're street sellers, or they have their own business in between other things. So with the quarantine, many people have really struggled to bring food for their families. Many parents have been struggling to really see what they're feeding their kids the next day. So someone started to doing this as a sign of desperate help. And now it has become a really common thing all around the country. And maybe you can see in here, this is a white flag. So as if you're going out, you may be able to see some people on the road waving a white flag. That means that they need help, that they don't have money to get groceries or food for their family. Or it's just as in this picture or this one, you can see that this is just a way in which people are saying that they need help, that they don't have food for their families. So that has been one of the toughest situations in here, I think, besides the virus. As I was mentioning, we're around 17 million people. We're just getting close to 30,000 cases. So compare to all of that, the people that have been truly affected by these fires that have gotten sick is not pretty much nothing compared to the rest of the population. But with all the regulations, this has been one of the hardest things that our country is going through in these months. So we were wondering and thinking, what could we continue to do as Channel Beyond to be able to support some of the communities and the families that we have working with in the past? And maybe one thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning is that we have our children's home, but then when we receive and host our teams, we work in different communities. So with the families that we work with, when we receive a team, they have nothing to do with our children. It's a separate thing, but then we want to work in a community, but also allow our teams to come and visit our children, play with them. So that's part of what we do when teams are here. But pretty much in the past, we have been working in 4 communities in these last 2 years, and we have been partnering with local pastors to find how we can best serve their communities and support their congregations. These pastors are the ones that, when we build a house, these pastors are the ones that help us to find these families, because as you go to a community, you may see many people in need, but one of the criteria that we have, for example, to build a house, is that the families will own their property for different reasons. And sometimes we receive a request of a family to help them with a wood house, but then we find out that they don't own the property or they're renting it. And one of the problems with that is that if they're renting just a property, then the landlord comes, asks them to leave and keeps the house, and maybe they don't have the need. Also, one other thing that it's really common here in the city is that we have many communities of squatters. So they don't own their properties. It's they live there as in a legal status. So it could be any time that the government or the owner could come, ask them to leave or force them to leave, and the house will be lost. So that's why one of our main criteria to choose a family is that they own their property, or it was inherited to them, or it's part of their parents' property, and a house can fit in there. So this picture belongs to a church in one of the communities where we have been serving. And then but we decided to start doing a CBI during this time, because so far we have not been able to travel to different states and here or visit these communities, but just to try to support some of these families that have been in a desperate need of help. So far we asked we asked some help from the people that has been supporting us in the last 4 years. We were able to raise some funds, and then to share these funds with 2 communities where we have been working. This one, and I will show you some pictures of the other community. And we divided those funds to get groceries for these families. So it was truly a blessing for us first, and then for them. We're really thankful and glad that this was able to be done. We have started a white flag campaign after these white flags that I was showing you just a moment ago. And our prayer and our hope is that we will continue to be able to do that during the next months, because we know there is a great need. As I was mentioning in our prayer, and our hope is that we will be able to go through this crisis and this situation as soon as possible. But as you may well know, is that the economical impact that all this situation is having may last for the next months. So many people, it will be really hard for many people to find another job, to find a way to feed their families. And we know there is a huge need. The government has been trying to do something. There have been other ministries or nonprofits willing to help and support some of these families, but it's not being enough. We know that maybe we will be short compared to all the families that are in need, but we want to just to be this channel in which some people can support these Guatemalan families through CBI, and we're placing this in the Lord's hands. So it was just the first time we did it, and we're hoping we will be able to continue doing this through the next months. So these are some of the families that were able to receive these groceries. As you can see, the kids were really happy, and that's something that really made us glad. This is a picture of a little girl eating her cereal. And I wanted to show you this picture because this was one of the houses that we built in, if I'm not wrong, in 2017. for I'm sorry, Haddle and Sudi, his wife. They are right here. And well, right now I know that he lost his job, and the small income that he was able to bring home is gone. So throughout this local church, we're able to share a small grocery of bags with them and with him and his family. We're praying that the Lord will bless and multiply this. We know that maybe that will be good for 2 weeks. So the need is always is well, I don't want to say will always be there, but we know it will be there for the next months. So we want to continue to be able to support these families through for you guys. So that's a little bit of how we have been as a country struggling with the current crisis around the world, how it has been affecting our ministry. And as I was telling you, you will hear more about our children's home, how they're doing. We're thankful because everyone is doing good. Our prayer is that no one will get sick, but you will get to hear more about it on Friday. So what I want to share with you now is a little bit of the communities where we have been working, the type of projects that we have when we work with our teams in there, and how they're doing, and some picture of the families that we were going to help that unfortunately we had to stop for the moment. So to begin, we have construction projects, and they are either wood house construction or stoves. This is a picture of a cook stove, and I'll be showing you more pictures just in a minute. Just one thing that I always like to mention when a wood house is built is that they're nothing fancy. As a matter of fact, they can be built in a week through our teams, and that works great for us. But for many of these families that live on a dirt floor, we call lamina, this corrugated metal pit, and many families use them as materials for their walls and their roofs. So if a wood house can make a difference for them and can become a blessing for them, we're glad to be able to support them in that way. Normally, when a team builds a house, they also like to provide a cook stove for them, and these stoves work great for these families because many of them cook on open stoves and then all inside their houses. So all the smokes affect especially the ladies, as normally they're the one that cook. They also affect their babies. It's not uncommon in here for these ladies to grow lung cancer throughout their lives, especially because of this. So we like these stoves because they use less wood and they have a pipe, and then the smoke doesn't stay in their homes. So this is just a picture of a stove when it was finished. Normally, this is how the cooking area looks in one of the average Guatemalan houses around the country. As you can see, as I was mentioning, all the smoke stays inside. Some other families, they decided to use a barrel, just as in this one, and this is really common to see around the country. And I want to show you this picture because this is in one of the communities where we have been, which is one of the communities that is the farthest away. With this team, we had to go across this river. They really enjoy that. It was a little hard because the parts of the stoves are quite heavy, as you can see. Let me go back to the first picture. Pretty much they are made of three parts. This is the square right here, and then the part that goes on the top. They're quite heavy. This each one is about 200 pounds, so you need many people to carry them. So it was quite hard with this team, but as we went across this small river, they truly enjoy that. It was such a joy for them to be able to bless this family, and this was quite funny for us because this is the top part. As I was mentioning, it's a little bit over 200 pounds, but we're all really struggling how to cross the river with that. But then the dad of the family came and he saw us and he just put it on his back and jumped on the rocks, and he was right away on the other side. Another thing that we do, and I'll be sharing a little bit more about the construction of the houses, is that we have been also receiving teams to do BBSs in different public elementary schools, communities, or churches. We've had the blessing of being welcome in these public schools. We have developed a relationship with some of the principal in these communities. So for us, it has really been a blessing to be able to come, be welcome, and share openly the gospel with them. These are just some pictures of the teams playing with the kids and doing BBSs during their school day. There was during recess, they were just playing alone with all the kids, and we have seen that the kids love to share with our teams. When that happens, when we receive a team that is working on that, we usually need to have more translators because they are divided in different areas, or if they're doing a BBS, they are being divided in different stations, so we need more than one translator for them. We have also received teams that have been interested in doing a sports camp. And as I was mentioning at the beginning of the meeting with Pastor Blaise, maybe some of you heard, is that soccer is one of the biggest sports in here. So in this community, we're really blessed to be able to play in this soccer field. This was built by the mayor for the community, but this field is right in front of the school where we were working. So they allow us to work in there. It was such a nice space. And then this was a team mostly of teens. So they were able to play during the whole morning, the whole week they were here. And then for the kids from the school, it was such a joy to work, well, not work, but to share with them, play with them. And it allows us to build a connection with them and also start sharing the gospel with all these kids and teens. These are just a few more pictures of the team playing with the kids. And then I like to say that this is not mainly a project by itself, but also whenever we build a house, and by the way, when we build a house, it has a cost of $3,000. That includes all the materials that are needed for the house, and it also includes a water filter. So each of these buckets is a water filter. So as I was mentioning, I don't like to say that it's a project by itself, because pretty much you just open the bucket, place the filter inside, which is a clay with some other material, materials to filter the water, and then you put it wherever you want. But then we had this one team that was, as their project, they were interested in providing 100 filters for 100 families in one of the communities where we have been working. And so this is how we distribute everything and organize it, and then how the families came to receive their filters. So this is in one of the churches that we have been partnering with in one of the communities where we have been working in the past. So we invited the families to come to the church and try to be organized to share with them. And then besides the stoves, the BBSs or sports camps, and the water filters, and the house construction, one other thing that we want to start doing is to have a medical clinic with and adapt a school bus to a clinic and go to different communities to start having medical teams. So as a matter of fact, we were hoping to start doing that this year. Unfortunately, things change, but this is exactly the bus that we are wanted to buy. We received a grant for this, so we are really thankful for it. We found this bus in here, so we were ready to buy it when everything had to stop. Everything was shut down. So for now, we have been in touch with the owner saying that even though we're not being able to buy it right now, we want to buy it in the future as soon as possible to start adapting it, make it into a clinic, and then start advertising for medical teams to be able to come and be able to go to different communities. So we're really excited about this. Maybe we won't be able to be this year, but Lord willing, we could start doing that next year. And so I wanted to take a little bit more time to share what we do when we receive a team that is interested in building a house. So the first thing that I do, and as I was sharing, is that we have been partnering with some local pastors. Pretty much we have been working in 2 communities. And let me go back, because I think the order was changed. Well, at least this one, which is, yeah, this one. So this is the state of Guatemala, which we call Guatemala City. And just to quickly share with you, we're located in this part of the city, number 8, which we call Misco. And here's where we have our children's home and our team house, where we host the teams that come. They're not in the same neighborhood or close to each other, but we're in the same city. So in car, they're maybe 10 minutes away. So when our teams come, they stay here in this part of the city. And then the two communities that where we have been working in the city is this number 13 and number 17. Number 13, it's called Villanueva. Some of the pictures that I was showing you of the church that was packing all the groceries was in this area. And then another community has been Amatitlan, close to the lake. This is the only lake in the city. So we have been working in these communities. It has been a real blessing for us. But then this year, the plan was to start working in a different community, in a different state. So that's one of the reasons that it has been hard for us, because we have not been able to travel to this state. So let me go back to the picture that I was showing you. So when we want to build a house, the first thing that I do is that I visit the family with the pastor that knows the family, that knows the community. So this was a family that received a house last November. This is Guadalupe and her oldest son. And that was the day when I visited them. And they were renting a small property really close to the property that she owned, which is right behind her. It was just an open, empty property, because even though she owned it, she had never been able to afford building anything in there. So when I visited, and this lady, Guadalupe, she is a widow. So she was working on the crops, because now she works for her children. So she came running on that day. She was wearing her boots. And just to talk about the project, the plans that we had, how we were going to do it. And then her oldest son was working with her and just helping her. And then when we visit the families, one of the things that I like to make sure is that first, that the house will fit in their property. They're 20 by 20, pretty much is a square. And only one time we had to adjust the plans, because we didn't really want to leave a family without the option of a house if we had the chance. And usually their properties are a little bigger than the house. But in that case, a specific case, we really needed to adapt the plans of the house to be able to fit in there. It has only been one time. So most of the cases, they fit. So when we were visiting here, we were able to see, obviously, that the house was able to fit. And then one thing that we do is that with $3,000 that a team pays for a house, is that well, I buy all the materials that they need, and the house is built just like in here. You can see it was just grass. So a concrete slab is built as a foundation, and then the wood house is built over that slab. So I get all the materials, but we want the families to be involved with us in the whole process of the construction of a house. So we asked them specifically for two things. The first one, if they cannot afford it, then that's not really a problem for us, but we want them to really appreciate what they're receiving. So I explained, and we asked for a symbolic price of 1,000 quetzales, which is our currency, which is around $130. And they pay to us that amount, and pretty much it really doesn't affect what we're doing for the house or not, because all the materials are covered by a team. And then we have had a few families that just that amount was not possible for them to pay. So I have spoken with them, and as I was saying, it's not really a mandatory thing for us, but in that way, we have been able to notice that they have appreciation of what they are receiving. That's the first thing. And then the other thing is that we ask them to build the concrete slab. For many of these families, there's someone in their family that works in construction, so they're able to build it. If not, they need to hire someone to help them with this slab. And then if they need help, then we talk about the different options that we have. But usually they're able to pay this 1,000 quetzales, or around $130, and either build this slab by themselves or hire someone to help them. And I asked them to have this ready at least a week before our team comes, to make sure it will be dry and everything is ready for when a team is ready to start building. This is the same property from a different angle. This was the team back in November that was building their house. As you can see, the slab was ready, and we're doing all the framing around to start going through the next days. This was when the house was almost done, and as I was mentioning, this was in a different state, in a rural area, so they have a really pretty view. All the backfields are crops, so the majority of families in this community work on those fields. But it was such a really pretty view of the background when building this house. This was this team when they were able to finish the house just from a different angle of the same house. And I wanted to show you this. Well, as I was mentioning, usually when a team builds a house, they also want to provide a stove for the family. Then we had some extra wood, and then this team decided to build a little house around the stove for her to be able to cook outside their house. So maybe you're able to see the pipe is right here. We were in that way we're able to make sure that they don't struggle with the smoke after cooking. So this was a picture of the house of this project when it was done. But also this is just a picture from the inside of the last time Pastor Pete was with us, with the team from this church and the family. This was the family in that case, and then some other relatives came as we were dedicating the house and praying for them. But this is just another picture of how a house seems from the inside. And here's Pastor Pete. We had a really good and a blessed time with that team. And then this is the slab, and I wanted to show you this because this was the slab that the family that we were going to provide a house for in March leave their project. As I was telling you, we asked them to have these ready, so they were sending me pictures, and they were really excited that they were done. I in the lumber place where we get the wood, they usually send it to the community where we're working. So they were just expecting to receive the wood, and then the team was coming the next week. But unfortunately, that's when everything changed, when everything had to be canceled. So this family has a slab in their property, and so far we have not been able to go there. We will love to be able to have this team that was going to be working with them to come and build a house. But if we need to wait a little longer, as soon as that gets to be possible, maybe our plan will be to go with some of our staff members in here and build a house to bless this family, because they're waiting and they have pretty much everything ready in there. And let me see. I'm sorry, this just moved the order I wanted to show you, but pretty much this is the map of Guatemala, as I was mentioning. Here, number 14 is the state of Guatemala, as we call it, Guatemala City. And in here are the two communities where we have worked in the past. One is called Villanueva, and the other one by the lake that I was telling you, it's called Amatitlan. And we are located a little somewhere in here. So it has been easy for us to travel with our teams there on a daily basis when they come, because these communities are from 30 to 40 minutes away. It allows us to go there in the morning, work during the day, come back. If the team feels like it, visit our children and play with them, and then come back to our team house for dinner and rest during the night. But the plan for this year was to start working in this community where we're able to meet another pastor, a community that is in a great need. And all the houses that we were expecting to build this year were in this estate, in number 12. Unfortunately, we have not been able to travel because of the regulations. But either if it's this year with at least two families that we're expecting to help in March, then Lord willing, as soon as we are able to start hosting teams again, our plan will be to start working in this estate. And as a matter of fact, we were blessed, and I'll be sharing with you just in a minute, with a new property, because right now where we're located and where we have both our children's home and the house that we have to host our teams, we have been renting these houses. And since the beginning, our plan was to get our own property. So we were blessed with a donation. We were able to get our own property, and it's no longer in the city, in here in number 14, but now we will be moving to number 12. So besides getting to know this pastor and this community, that's one of the reasons we will be moving to start helping this community, because we need to, even though, there's a huge need all around the country, especially in the rural areas. It's really hard for us to go from where we're hosting our teams to a different community that might be 4 or 5 hours away, because logistically that wouldn't make sense for us to be able to work with them. So this estate is more of a rural area, and we're really excited to start helping the community where our new property is at and the communities around. So Lord willing, in the next years, and if you ever come to visit us, which we'll be really excited to welcome you in here, maybe we'll be working in one of the communities in this estate, which is called Chimaltenango. That is the name of that estate. And this is just the family that we were going to provide a house for through the team in March. This is Camilo and Mario. Camilo is 3 and Mario is 2. When I visit them, unfortunately, their mother was not there. She was abandoned by her husband. So she works as a maid in a house in the city. So when I was there, when I came to visit the family, I was able to speak with the grandparents, and the house was going to be for their daughter, which is the mother of Camilo and Mario. So they're the ones that already have the slab, and as soon as possible, we would love to go there and be able to build this house for them. Also, I want to show you pictures of the other 2 families that we were going to help during March and April. It's the same, as soon as possible, as soon as we're able to go back, maybe without our teams, to be able to build the houses for them. This is Olivia. Her husband Miguel was not there. They have a little daughter, if I remember right. She was 2 years old. I guess she was sleeping at that time, but I always like to take a picture of them, send it to the team that is coming, for them to start praying for the family, to get to know who they're blessing. So this was one of the other families. And also the plan was to build a house for Aura, which is this lady and her 2 children. And the same time, she was abandoned by her husband, and she was living with him. And they were renting a house when he abandoned her. Well, she had to move back with her parents, and there was just not more space with her. So they have been living a little crowded in the last months, and we're really excited that we're going to be able to help her, because she owns property, but she has never been able to afford building anything in there. So again, as soon as it gets to be possible, these 3 families are a priority to build the houses for. And just to quickly share with you, when a team comes, as I was telling you, they are usually here for a week. They usually come either on a Sunday night or a Monday morning to start working at the beginning of the week. Usually it's more common when teams come on a Sunday night. They're able to rest, and then Monday morning we're ready to work, depending on what project they're doing, either a construction project, if it's stoves for different families throughout their week, or a house construction, or BBSs, or sports camps. We usually take from Monday to Thursday or Monday to Friday. And then we like to take one day for the team to be able to rest and sightsee some of the touristy places here in Guatemala. I don't know if you have ever heard, but this is the town of Antigua. Antigua used to be our capital in the 1500s when we were conquered by the Spaniards. And then one particular thing about this town is that everything, all the architecture stayed in the same way that they had back in the 1500s and the 1600s. So everything, it's a colonial style. This place is not too far away from the city, so it's perfect for us to take a day with our teams to visit this town, have lunch in there, walk around, and just enjoy the view. So I wanted to show you a little bit of this town. This is still in Antigua. They had, as the Spanish were living in there, and they were the one that were ruling the country back in those years. They had many Catholic churches and buildings. So now we have ruins in there which you can visit. And this is just a picture of an old Catholic church in this community, and then the market in front and all the tourists coming in. So when we decide to take one day for our teams to sightsee and rest after they're done with their project, the most common place to visit is Antigua. We're able to do that during the day. It doesn't take much time to be on the road, but also we have some other options just to quickly share with you to know some of the places that you could visit after working on the project in here if you ever decide to come and bless us in as you bless a Guatemalan family. This is a picture of my girlfriend and I. We were climbing a volcano close to the city called Pacaya. And I wanted to show you this picture because at the top of the volcano, you can see, well, depending on the angle, you can see 3 other volcanoes. One is in here, 2 other are here behind my back. On a clear day, it's a really pretty picture. Just to quickly share with you, I think many of the Central American countries, we have volcanoes all over around. In the case of Guatemala, we have over 200 volcanic formations. And I think there's a discussion really to see how many formal volcanoes we have, but it's between 34 to 36, and only 3 of them are active. And this one, which is called Pacaya, which is not too far away from the city, it's an active volcano, and then depending on how active it is, you're able to really go to the top. Sometimes you're able to see the small rivers of lava coming down and the smoke coming out as well. So this was almost on the very top on that same day. So you can see pretty much to climb it, it's just a mountain. Some people do it on a horse, as you can see here behind. And then as I was telling you, depending on how active the volcano is, you're allowed to go to the very top, to the crater and see. On that day, it was just smoking. There was no lava. So I guess if a team wants to go there, we just really need to make sure they're allowing people to climb. But that's an experience that some teams have really liked. It's not a really a hard volcano to climb. It takes about 2 hours to get to the top, another 2 to come down. And also one really common thing in here, it's because it's an active volcano. If you scratch through some of the rocks at the very top, one of the most famous things to do at this volcano is to roast a marshmallow. So there was just a picture of that day. And also, as well, depending what the team wants to do, there's another option. There is a lake, which is the prettiest lake in this country, which is about 3 hours away from where we're located. So this takes pretty much the whole day. It's a road trip of 6 hours, getting there and going back. But then you get to the town of Panajache, which is this one in here. This is just a picture of a hotel by the lake. You can walk in their streets, get the souvenirs, the normal Guatemalan souvenirs. And if you have time, the normal thing is to go across the lake in one of these boats to the different small towns that are around, have lunch in there, come back, and then come back at night after sightseeing this lake. So as I was telling you, I just wanted to share a little bit of what we do on the free day that we take with our teams. So if you ever decided to come, I will be more than happy to talk about first the project that you will be doing, and then where would you like to go on your free day. And as I was mentioning before, I am also including the map in here to finish showing you that we have been located in Guatemala City, but Lord willing, soon we'll be moving to our permanent property here in number 12 in the state of Chimaltenango, in the small town of San Andres. And for this, I want to quickly show you where it is. This is the state of Chimaltenango, as I was telling you, which is number 12 in here. And then San Andres is number 15 in this map. So when you come from the city, from the airport, you come in this direction, get to the state capital, and then it's about 30 minutes to get down to where our new property is at. So it may take from an hour and a half to 2 hours to get there from the airport. So far, we're not there yet, or all teams were coming here to the city. We're only 20 or 30 minutes away from the airport, but this is our plan for the future. And I wanted to quickly show you an image of the town where the new property is at. It's a really rural area, a really small town. Our property is this yellow rectangle that you can see in here. It's almost as long as the property down here, the little town of San Andres. And one of the reasons that we were like this place, besides the property and the options that we have in there to build everything that we're planning for, is that we are right there to start helping and blessing this community. We have not been able to to start building a relationship with them in there yet, but there are some pastors. There are at least four small churches in this community, and one of our ideas for a new property was to build a church and have a church for our children, for the teams that will come to visit us and the community around. But now when we found this place, we realized that it wouldn't make sense to open another church when there are already four churches in there that we can partner with and start supporting and helping. So we're really excited about that in the future. For this year, we were not sure, but we're starting to talk about the idea that maybe some of our teams were going to be interested in start helping us to start building our new children's home in this property. Obviously, everything had to stop and the plans changed. But this is just a Google map picture of this community. When you come from the state capital of Chimaltenango, you come through this road, you get to the property, to the town, and then to the property. This is a picture from the bottom of the property, and as you're able to see, it's pretty much a rectangle in here. So all the light green that you're able to see, it's our property. This place used to be a farm before, so when we bought it, it came with almost 30 cows, almost 100 pigs, and then some farm equipment. We decided to liquidate all of that, and then right now the property is empty. These are some avocado trees that we want to keep in the bottom of the property, and start building more in the middle and the top, which I'll be happy to share with you. Then this is a picture from almost the very top of the property. As I was telling you, we're surrounded by volcanoes. This is the same volcano, if you may remember, that you're able to see in the picture of Antigua, which we call the Agua volcano. On a clear day, you have a really pretty view. So if you are able to come and visit us in the next years, maybe our team house will be located in this property, and this could be your view every day. And then I have a small video that I wanted to share with you of the property. As I was mentioning, our property is pretty much a rectangle. All the light green is that what belongs to it. So in here, you can see at the very bottom some kids from the community playing. And then right here, this is where our property begins. We will really love to, until where this little shack is, it used to be a chicken coop, to leave all of that open just the way it is with the avocado trees, and then start building from here to some other part of the top, which I'll be showing you in a moment. But just for you to get a better idea of how this property looks, we wanted to share it with you. When we were there and when we shot this video, still some cows were there by the barns. As I was telling you, they're no longer there as we sold everything. But that's pretty much the plan. Maybe throughout this video, it's a little hard to see, but then this part, especially that we're seeing right now, it's really quite steep. So we thought that if it's not needed for now, we will not be building anything in there as part of our construction project in the property. But then if it's needed, maybe we'll be adding some more buildings in the future. So far, the plan is to have our team house a little down the hill in here, and then have some trails if our teams would like to walk, and probably have a prayer chapel in here across at the top that can be seen from everywhere. So those are some of the plans that we have for our future. We're really excited about this. We know that we will not be able to build everything that we want right away, but the first thing that we want to start adding is our children's home, and I will be showing you what the plans are. And this is just a view of the very top. So I was telling you, there's a volcano right in here. And this day it was a cloudy day. There's another one right here. They're both inactive volcanoes. So we were aware of that before we got this property. And this is just a plan of what we will want, how we will want the property to see in the next years. Maybe it will take us 10 years to finish everything. But as I was telling you, the first thing that we want to start building is the children's home, because where we are, it's a beautiful house. It's big enough for our kids. We love it. But we are renting that, and this rent takes a big part of our monthly budget. So as soon as we're able to build our new children's home in our own property, that will help us with our budget, and then we will be able to stop renting. So I was telling you, this part is what gets quite steep right in here. So maybe we will leave it open, and then the majority of what we want to build will be in this area. I want to show you pretty much what the plans are. And the first thing that we want to do is the children's home, which will be this, with all the offices in the middle. And then maybe in the future, as I was mentioning at the beginning, we have been receiving children from 1 day to 5, and then if they need to grow with us, they will. But maybe in the future, if we see a need to start receiving teens, we know that's a whole different thing. Some of them might be really hard, but we were thinking that maybe we can have a house for teen boys, another one for teen girls, and we can receive them, because we know no one wants to receive these teens because they are hard. But if we see that the Lord is calling us to do that and to serve this type of population, then we want to be ready for that in the next years. So far, it's still only our children's home, but we want to keep this option open. Also, for our long-term kids, currently we have nannies that care for them. But then if they need to grow with us until they turn 18 or even more, instead of them growing with nannies, we will love them to grow in a family model. So we've been thinking that we could be able to have some sort of foster care for them, where we will have some Guatemalan families living in our property, and their job will be to raise these children. So maybe from 3 to 4 houses. Still, we're not there yet, but that's part of the future for the property. And then these are the barns that you were able to see in the video. We're thinking, and maybe we can adapt them. And so the first one maybe could become an indoor gym, or we can have a soccer field for our kids and a basketball court as well. Then a storage and a multi-purpose area in this hall. And then our team house will be this one. We're hoping to be able to host up to 40 people in this house. Maybe this will take us a little longer, but as I was sharing with you, the first part of our project is to start building the children's home, which will go in here. And then in the next years, start building the rest of what we will want in the property. This is just an image of how we will want the children's home to look from the very front. This is a colonial style, pretty much, that will go with, if you have ever seen pictures or been here in Guatemala and Antigua, goes in the same style of Antigua. So we're excited about this. The plan is to start building as soon as possible. We're already working with an architect that will help us in this. And this is just some of the plans that we have for the children's home. Pretty much all the rooms will go in here on this part of the building. All the offices, because we need a doctor, a psychologist, a social worker, our director, to be in here, and then to have a big industrial kitchen in here, and maybe a dining hall in here. So we're still working on that, but pretty much those are part of our plans. So now I will stop sharing my screen, and thank you very much for everyone for your time, for being in here. I really appreciate this. And I don't know if there's any question or comment that you would like to share. I'll be happy to try to give an answer.
No questions yet.
So you can chat your questions in the chat room. That's how we'll be hearing from people.
Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, how many children will be in the house? Yeah, thanks for asking. So right now, our license is to have 20 children, no matter how big the space is. If we will want to have more children, we will need to adapt our license with the government. So the first thing that we had in mind when we found this property is, a bigger place. Why don't we just build a bigger house? So instead of having 20 children, we can have 50 or more. Then one thing that has been going on in here, it hasn't been really a big thing yet, but I don't know if you heard, it was a big thing in 2017, but there was a children's home run by the government that got on fire, and 40 teen girls passed in this place. So especially after that, all children's homes, no matter how nice they are, no matter how family environment you try to keep them, to the government, we're an institution, and when they want to keep the least amount of time and children in these places. So to the government, we're an institution. And we have heard through some of the judges that we have been working with in the last years that our government is receiving some pressures through UNICEF, through the United Nations, to stop having children in institutions. So we have been talking about this. We know that they're starting, just like in the US, starting to promote foster care in here. There are some ministries in between the church where they're trying to find families willing to be foster families for these children. And it has been a discussion that has been going on for the last 10 years or so. So as we have talked about this and have talked with some other ministries that also have children's homes, it seems that even though that's the intention, it doesn't seem that there will be soon a stop to children's home, and then where more families will be willing to be foster families, because they started, even though it has been more of a discussion in the last 10 years, especially in the last, we heard they have been trying to raise these families in the last 30 years, and only few people have been interested. So it seemed that even though that's where things are going, the need of children's homes will always be there. So keeping that in mind, when we're planning for a property, we thought, well, even though we have a space to build a house that can't, where we can fit comfortably 50 children, maybe we'll keep it as well for 20 in case things change and we will need to adapt. And well, I think that was the only question, right?
So how many teams can you host per year when there's no COVID?
Okay. Well, this year, well, this was going to be our third full year of hosting teams. It was going to be the busiest year so far, and we were expecting to have almost 20 teams. But and let me tell you, so far, because in the past, as we started, it was only a few teams. So far, it's been only me in the office working to be able to host our teams. So this year, I was just about to hire someone to help me in the office to be able to work with more teams. So as the need comes, the staff will keep growing, and that's our hope, prayer, and desire.
Any other questions that folks have? So does Child Beyond already own the property then?
Yes, we were able to purchase it last year, and yeah, we finished all the paperwork, and now it's under our name. We are see, in here, well, in the US, we're all known as Child Beyond, but legally, we needed to have another name here in Guatemala. So we are God's Grace Ministries as for the nonprofit that we have in Guatemala. So now the property is under the name of God's Grace Ministries, and now everything is in order. And as soon as possible, we will start working on our first phase of construction, which will be the children's home.
So what is the goal of your white flag campaign?
Oh, great. You know, as I was mentioning, for us, it will be great to be able to at least help or support with some of these families with many groceries as possible, and as many families as possible. Some of these families are struggling because they have lost their jobs and they don't have a current income right now. So as well, just as when we try to find families to build a house for our teams or build the stoves, we're trying to do the same as we partner with these pastors. They know their communities, they know the families that are in a greater need. So with according to the funds that we are receiving, be able to provide for these families. So we don't want it to get to the place where they will be depending on us to feed their families, but be a support during this time when it's being the hardest for them.
So if you have a family, let's say of 4, mother and father and 2 children, a week's worth of groceries is about how much in US?
Okay. Let me do the math really quick right now, and let me share with you really quick, because this was the first time we were doing that, and we had been trying to decide how best to do it. We just decided, out of the 4 communities where we have been working, we decided to work with 2 pastors of 2 communities and decide with them which was the best option. One of these communities is a little bigger, so they decided what we were able to share with them according to the funds that we received were $3,000. So what we decided to do with one of these pastors was just to share this bag of groceries with as many families as possible. In their community, we were able to bless 150 families. And then with the other pastor, which is a smaller community, we decided with him that, because even though our plan is to keep raising funds for this campaign as longer as it's needed, we were not sure how many funds we were going to be receiving in the future, as this is something that we're just working with. So we decided with him that he was going to take up the $3,000 that we were able to share with him in half, and he was going to get groceries for worth of 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks, bless the same families again with some other groceries that will be good for 2 weeks. So in here, I will say that for 1 week, it's in dollars around $60 will be good for a family of 4 to feed them for 2 weeks.
Okay. So did you have some teams that did get to go this year? I think you did mention there were a couple teams that were able to go, like in February.
Yes. So we, this year started as well quite busy. Just on the January the 1st, we received a team in here, and it was this family that wanted to stay in here throughout the whole month. And this was a unique team, or actually a family. They're magicians, and that's their ministry. They go to different churches and schools. They have a magic show and then present the gospel. But they wanted to come in here and visit our communities and schools and do that. And then our school year is different. So during January, that's just when our school year is starting. We're able to visit some churches and schools. We were able to do that with them. And just after they left, we received another team that they had come one time before. And they were really good in building the house. They came in 2018. Usually we take a complete week a week from Monday to Friday to build a house. These guys, they were able to build a house in 2.5 days in 2018. So this year they said, well, we want to build 2 houses in a week. So just after the family that we received in January was left, then these guys came and we were able to build 2 houses. Then February, we didn't have any team, and for March, we're just about to, March and April, we're about to be receiving 3 teams more, but that's when things had to stop.
So are there any other questions that we can answer for you in terms of our attendees? We generally find that at about, when you get over an hour or so, it starts to, people have a hard time listening, but hopefully they'll have questions. And we're recording this so that it will be available for people to look at later in case they can't watch at this point in time, but we're recording the whole thing. So you'll be seen by others as well.
That's great.
So good job and lots of great information. And thank you from different folks coming up. So. Okay,
well, I'm glad. And as I was telling you, we at CBI really want to thank your church for trusting us in this, wanting to get to know CBI, what we have been trying to do in here. We know there are so many great ministries doing awesome things in different parts of the world, and we're just one of them. And we wouldn't be able to do it without people supporting us. So thank you for even considering joining us. I know there are so many things to consider right now. There's a big uncertainty of when we'll be able to have international missions again, and especially with ministries like this, with short-term mission trips. But if you will be interested in maybe joining us one time. We'll be more than glad to set apart a week for you, start talking about the options that we will have for the years to come.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for sharing all that information. And we look forward to talking to Mandy on Friday.
Sure. You'll
Yep.
be meeting her and some of our children. So, and probably just to finish, we will really love to pray for you. So is there something in specific that you would like us to be praying for?
I think praying for all those folks that we saw in those hospitals down there in Guatemala, that was, pretty disconcerting compared to what we see around here. And so I think that probably is very impactful on a lot of people.
Okay, well, thank you. Sure, we will continue to pray for our people.
Yep. Do you want to pray, or do you want me to pray, or?
Whatever you want.
Okay, how about if I pray?
Sure, let's pray.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, gracious and wonderful Lord, we thank you for all the opportunities that you give us to be in your mission field and to provide for others in this world and to let others know about the great love that you have for them. Lord, we ask that you look down upon the people of Guatemala, particularly during this time where so many are sick and in facilities that can't even care for them, and so many do not have work and don't have food. Lord, we ask that you would use all of this to your glory, that in some way people come to know about you. Dear Lord, we ask that you look down upon all the folks that get to listen to this and that they be able to help in whichever way you have given them the resources to provide. Lord, we ask that you particularly look down upon the children in the orphanage and upon the staff at Child Beyond International and keep them in your care and keep them safe. Lord, we know that you are the only way that we can be able to help folks is through your love. And we ask that you would utilize us as your hands and feet and your eyes and ears and mouth to tell others about this great mission. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you very much, Pastor Blaise, and thank everyone that joined this meeting. It's been an honor and pleasure and a joy to share with you. Hope to stay in touch with you guys and keep hearing more about your church.
Thank you very much, Jorge.
Okay, have a great evening.
You too.